on your
like
helmet
the opportunity to make $5-6 million coaching them up. No problem. But it was a.
Thank God we're playing the Cardinals today, huh? I mean,
my
God,
what?
it's been a bad week, Broaddus. We got these offensive linemen. They're dropping like flies.
You're not
Trayvon
I'm not
Diggs.
going there. I am not going there.
No, thank God.
I am
Just
not
what we
going
need.
there.
Just what the doctor ordered, man.
Yeah.
Well, Josh Dobbs and Jonathan Gannon.
I'm telling you
what. You can spot him 28 points. Daniel Jones said, here's like 24 points. And it doesn't matter because you're Jonathan Gannon and you're Josh Dobbs and you're the Cardinals.
To me, this is a team that everybody thought when they got rid of Colt McCoy that they were going to tank, that they were tanking, and Kyler Murray, and heck, they'd given Kyler Murray just so much money. And then, here he is and he gets injured and they have to go to, the backups, and everybody's like, oh, well, maybe they're just going to tank. They changed the coach.
That second half looked like a hell of a tank job last week, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I know you watched that game. I know you broke it down.
Yeah.
John, I mean, what happened in that second half?
Turnovers. Yeah, you got to be ready when Josh Dobbs throws you the ball. That's what you got to be ready for on defense.
Because he's gonna give you a couple opportunities.
There's going to be a mistake or one or two that he is going to make in the game, but you've got to be ready for it. You can't just all of a sudden decide that you're not going to secure the ball, or that's the problem. And the thing that worries me the most about the Arizona Cardinals is this is a team that does put pressure on a quarterback. They're third in the league in sacks. And now you're compromised in, a couple of spots for sure. And we'll see how these guys play. We'll see how Brock Hoffman plays with a guy, breathing the same air as him, right there on his nose while he's making calls and adjusting everything.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be a challenge in that way. I'm not going to sit here and act like that the Arizona Cardinals are a better football team than the Dallas Cowboys. I do believe in desperate team theories. I really do. I think that when teams are to that point, they will play with a certain amount of desperation at home. They don't want to go down 0-3. And the Cowboys, everything for the Cowboys has been going wonderfully until, you got an injury to Diggs and stuff. But if you think about the way the first two games couldn't have gone any better for the Dallas Cowboys.
Ball bouncing their way.
Everything, Dak throws the ball outside. Sauce Gardner doesn't catch it. There fumbles on the ground.
Here's Broaddus.
Who's going to recover fumbles now for the Cowboys?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. Who recovers the fumbles today that Pollard lets on the ground? Or was it maybe Dabble dropped one as well? I can't remember exactly. But, there's been a couple of those for sure.
Dallas has done a great job of playing a complete football. Now, the red zone stuff, they'll clean that up. But to me, this is Arizona presents some problems. If the read option stuff, and that's watching them play, the read option stuff that they do, if I'm Jonathan Gannon, I'm hearkening back to, okay, how do you stop Micah Parsons, or how do you control Micah Parsons? We saw what Philly did with him in the read option. You make this defense play slow. You make them have to react and wait a minute, they freeze and then now they're going to react. Mm-hmm. That's this Arizona offensive line. I think they're good at tackles. I don't think they're very good at guard. They're good at center, not good at guard spots, and good at the tackle spots. So Dallas, that will be a challenge for Dallas to have to, if it turns into a game of throwing the football, that always plays into the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. Always going to play because the ability to rush the passer. But if all of a sudden that Arizona decides, okay, we're just going to read option this thing all day and turn this into a college football game, you better play with some discipline in this game.
All right. So how would you describe your feelings towards this game going to Arizona where the Cowboys are 2-7 in their last 9?
I picked it 28-20 on every platform I was on this
Okay,
week.
So then you're not scared, but I think you're nervous.
I am.
Or you're queasy. Are you queasy?
I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out, because I have a feeling that, now listen, I thought last week, with what was with no Brandon Cooks, that the Jets would play differently to take CeeDee Lamb, and they didn't.
Not at all.
Maybe the Cardinals aren't smart enough to do that. I just feel like, though, to beat Dallas, you have to make Dallas deal with some of the running things, deal with the eye levels and the motions and the shifts and all that. Make them have to kind of play along with you there. They have to replace their corner, and hey, Bland will be ready to go. Lewis will be ready to go. Well, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll continue to break this bad boy down. It's the official pregame party of America's team. We're just getting started here on a Cowboy game day. Broaddus is a bit queasy. I'm going to go ahead and label him queasy for the remainder of the afternoon.
I know we do at the end of the day, but I picked Dallas to win. Am I totally 1,000% sure? No, I'm not. I understand that.
Not. No Broaddus, no Martin. Offensive line is going to be a little bit of a question mark for sure.
No Diggs.
No Diggs. We got that news as well. Plenty more to discuss in regards to this one. Cowboys Nation come out early to the Miller Lite House for home games, the pregame gathering destination on the West Plaza of the stadium. Miller Lite is the only beer of the Cowboys, and we invite all Cowboys fans to join us for a great tailgate event. We were out there last week. It was phenomenal. Next week is going to be even better with the Patriots in town. Sample some great seltzer brands as well. Vizzy Hard Seltzer, the official hard seltzer of the Cowboys, just getting started on a Cowboy game day. Let's go behind enemy lines. We go out to Arizona Cardinals play-by-play man Dave Pasch. He was doing some Longhorns and Baylor Bears football yesterday. Hops on a bird. He goes to Arizona. What's all that do? And let's break this game down with Dave Pasch behind enemy lines next right here on The Fan.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the
setting up. Now takes off running left. He's got room at the 15, at the 10, drops to the 5, takes on a defender, bounces off of him, and into the end zone for the touchdown. The defender, Xavier McKinney, tried to take on Josh Dobbs at the 1-yard line, and Dobbs just trucked him.
It's time to go behind enemy lines here on the official pregame show of America's team. Happy game day, ladies and gentlemen. We head out to Arizona and welcome in the voice of the Cardinals. He is Dave Pasch, a man who is working all over the globe, doing some Texas Longhorn football, Baylor Bear football just last night. And then, Dave, what? You hop on a bird and rock and roll, ready for game day back-to-back? This is nothing for you, huh?
It's a little weird, though, flying out of Dallas on the morning of a Cowboys road game in Arizona. There were a ton of Cowboy fans on my flight this morning. And I think if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, I know this is a Cowboy show, but if you're a UT fan, you should be pretty excited. They might be the best team in the country.
Okay, I was ready to ask you a couple of college football questions. You're looking at that Texas team, and, well, Dave, you seem pretty gosh dang impressed.
Yeah, and, it just feels different talking to Sark and a couple of the players and just watching Quinn Ewers. And, even the Baylor coaches said that defensive front looks like an Alabama front, an SEC front. The Big 12 is top-heavy. It's Texas and Oklahoma right now. It's a little down, I think. So looking at their schedule, and if Alabama keeps winning, that only helps them even if they lose a game.
Yeah.
I think they're in great position to get into the playoff.
Well, Dave, your focus then is on the Cowboys in Arizona today, so I'll talk to you about that one. I just kind of feel like watching Arizona that it's a team that just doesn't have the ability to finish right now. I think that the talent is there, and I just kind of, when I'm watching, I'm like, man, they should have won this game today. They should have found a way to get this done today. Am I seeing them the wrong way, or is it more than that?
I would disagree a little bit. I think the lack of talent is the reason they haven't won those games. And when I say that, I mean, clearly they have talented players. But, at some point, it's the NFL. And, the Giants in the first half didn't do much. But great players are going to do great things at some point in a game. And the Giants had more of those guys than the Cardinals do. Washington had more of those guys. The Cardinals lack depth. And in the preseason, it was pretty obvious when they got past the ones, they really struggled. And, they're losing guys. I mean, no Budda Baker last week really hurt in the second half. Mm-hmm. Carlos Watkins, a guy that you guys know, I mean, he got hurt. He played pretty well. I mean, they had 5 starters week 1 on defense that did not play last week. And in the first half, they were able to scheme it and get through it, and again, playing hard. But at some point, when you're undermanned, it's really hard to close out games. This one, you're certainly concerned. The hope would be it's close, but I'm not sure the way the Cowboys are playing that's going to be the case.
Voice of the Cardinals, Dave Pasch, hanging out with us here on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. What has this Jonathan Gannon experience been like thus far?
He's been great. I mean, he's a guy that obviously it comes in highly regarded with what he did in Philadelphia. He's got a very young staff for the most part. Defensive coordinator Nick Rawlis turned 30 a couple months ago. Offensive coordinator Drew Petzing's in his mid-30s, first time calling plays. So, it's a new experience for all them. They've got a new GM, Monty Austin, for it. So it's a reset. Rebuild is a term you really don't use in the NFL because you can get good quickly, and they were in the playoffs 2 years ago. And Kyler at some point is going to be back. So, it's new, it's different, but and a week like last week, for those young coaches, that's a good experience ultimately for them to kind of go through that because, the expectations of this year are that, the hope is you compete in as many games as possible. But, obviously a lot of people don't think they're going to be a playoff team, and now they're 0-2 and playing Dallas this week. So the hope is they can lay the foundation for this year. And then through the draft, and then with some of the guys they have, and if Kyler comes back and plays well, now you at least have a franchise quarterback for year 2 of this regime.
Dave, when I was watching the Cardinals play offensively, though, I think the best path for victory today might be with some of the stuff that we've seen with the read option. They really mess with your eyes with all the movements and shifts and things like that. How do you see it playing out if the Cardinals are able to move the football against this Dallas defense? How will that path be?
And they got to find a way, obviously, to block Micah Parsons. I think that's, first and foremost is designing it. I'm sure the offense, based on what they expect, where they expect him to line up, what they expect him to do. I assume the plan will be to possess the ball as long as possible and keep the Cowboys offense on the sideline. The game plan last week was very different than the game plan was for week 1. And I think, again, that's a credit to Drew Petzing, who is still learning as a play caller. Defensively, they're going to have to get takeaways, guys. I mean, to have a shot, they're going to have to make some plays. Dallas is going to have to make some mistakes. Otherwise, it's liable to get sideways.
This Dennis Gardeck guy is somebody that has kind of popped off and come out of nowhere. He's a pass rusher. Everybody talks about Zaven Collins, but Gardeck, I think, Cowboys fans are going to get familiar with him today.
He's probably one of the most improved players in the NFL the last 5 years. This guy was undrafted out of Sioux Falls. That's where he played college. And he was a special teams guy strictly his first few years in the league. And, he's not going to be an every down pass rusher, but you look at his production based on how many snaps he plays, he makes things happen. And, he's not a guy with elite speed or strength, but he will make some plays. And, look, they're going to need that. They're going to need Zaven Collins to be better. That back end has to, shore things up. Again, no Budda Baker, so you're losing your best defensive player.
Dave, when I was watching you with Paris Johnson, I've been really impressed with him and what he's done at tackle. Matter of fact, both the offensive tackles with DJ Humphries and Paris, I feel like they've kind of solidified themselves there. Is the weakness of the offensive line inside at the guard spot? Where do you have the biggest issues with that offensive line?
Probably. I mean, Paris Johnson, look, the Cardinals obviously targeted him in the draft. They moved back and then moved up to get him. And now you have to build on the offense and defensive lines in the NFL. The Cardinals, hard to say that in the previous regime that was their focus. It's not like they didn't draft linemen on either side of the ball, but I think this group's focus is to build the offensive and defensive lines. They drafted B.J. Ojulari in the second round out of LSU. He's an outside linebacker in a 3-4. And Paris Johnson, I agree, he's played really well. And, yeah, they've got, journeyman at guard. Will Hernandez is a good player. He's been around. I think, he's solid. You know what you're going to get there from Will, especially as a run blocker. The center and the other guard spot is a little bit of a question mark. You got guys that have bounced around for sure.
All right, Dave, before we let you out of here, I'm trying to take a tally. We know Al Michaels is a guy at halftime, likes to consume some steak, maybe even some shrimp in the booth before half number 2. Our own Brad Sham has a nice little sushi spread at AT&T Stadium. It's beautiful.
Broaddus
What? All about that.
Yeah.
What's the Dave Pass tradition at halftime? What are you consuming?
First of all, this is news to me. I don't know what Brad's deal is, but how is he getting sushi at halftime? I'm lucky if we get food at all. I mean, college games usually we have a sandwich or something, but other than that, man, it's hot dog or nothing, maybe a protein bar. But nobody's bringing food to me. I'm going to have to find out where Brad is getting this from here. This is breaking news.
What you have to do, Dave, is just say walk out of your booth next time you're here and then take a right into our booth, and I'm sure they'll let you get right in line there and grab you a plate or two.
Does he have sashimi and everything?
Everything.
I mean, is it
everything?
It's his personal choice. He gets to make the order, and they bring him. That's what happens. You're the voice of the Cowboys, man.
That's what happens.
That's
what happens. We'll get our people, his people. We'll get him in touch with your people. We'll get this thing figured out for you, Dave. Thank you so much for the time, man. Enjoy the game.
All right. You got it, guys. Take care.
Yes, sir. Dave Pash, the voice of the Cardinals. Look at that. He's hoping to get a hot dog. Our guy Sham, the legend that he is, rocking with the sushi at halftime at AT&T Stadium. It's the official pregame party of America's team, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company, and the party gets even better as we welcome in Cowboy legend Moose Johnston next right here on The Fan.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat.
Moose.
The Moose call has even cost star running back Emmitt Smith a few visits to the end zone.
It was actually kind of hard to hear the cadence down on the goal line, and then he was kidding me about it. He goes, this has got to stop. He goes, they're even expecting you to get the ball down here.
And everybody started hollering, Moose. I'd be like, Moose, they calling you. You better go ahead and give them what they want.
Arguably, Johnston has become the NFL's best traditional fullback, a first-time Pro Bowl selection who sacrifices his body for the good of the team.
That's the hardest white boy in the world.
He's good.
We call him a hard white boy. Boy will hit anything. Moose.
Daryl Moose Johnston, ladies and gentlemen, Cowboy legend on today's call with Joe Davis and Pam Oliver for Fox, and Moose joins us now. Moose, thanks so much for the time, man. That was a real treat for me to listen to. I'm sure you just enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you for the stroll down memory lane. That was awesome.
Absolutely, man. Our pleasure. How fun has the season been for you so far? You're bouncing around a little bit. You started off the season in right here in Fort Worth, hanging out with Dion and company, right?
We did. We actually got to go out on Friday, and I had no anticipations, just going out to visit some of the Fox people that were in town, and the Buffaloes ended up being at the same hotel where we were at, and got an opportunity to visit with Dion. He let me sit in on the team meeting that night, which was awesome. I felt like I was ready to play as soon as he wrapped up, but was not surprised to see the results the next day. It was something unique he had going on, and I can't wait to see how the team responds after a tough loss yesterday.
Moose, when you look at this Cowboys season, the way it started, it couldn't be any better for how things have kind of shaken out. Where have you felt like when you watch this defense, where do you start to even try and, if you're Arizona, to attack it today?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're starting to hear the comparisons with Micah Parsons to Lawrence Taylor, back in the day, kind of playing that same position, that relentless pursuit by the linebacker. And when we played against Lawrence Taylor, we used to like to run at him. Carl Banks was on one side, LT was on the other. If you went at Carl, you were going to get a whole lot of movement, and then LT would come from behind and wreck everything on the backside. So we decided to start going at him because there wasn't that much pursuit from the opposite side. So I think the odd thing about going up against Micah Parsons is you've got to go right at him. And for me, we're going to talk about this during the course of the game, but if he's wandering around through that front and all of a sudden he comes up over the center, I would have just an automatic, it's an audible, but everybody knows that when he's over the center, we're going trio. We're going guard, center, guard right at him, and we're going to try and knock him back, try to get him tired as much as you can in the run game, so you take away some of that quickness and closing speed when he's rushing the passer.
Moose, when this coaching staff has a little bit of a Philadelphia background to it. We've seen where Micah has been slowed down with read option. And I know in your game prep, you probably saw Josh Dobbs run some read option. Would that be something that you maybe would see Arizona try today to control the game a little bit?
I would think that Dan Quinn would have that all solved from last year. Yeah, there was a few times where all of a sudden you start to think a little bit, but I'm sure Dan Quinn has got some things built into this defense where if all of a sudden, with him on the end of the line and him being involved in some type of read option or even RPO, this is what your rule is going to be. I mean, there's a little bit of difference in what his role is this year. Not so much stack linebacker mixed with D-line. It's more getting him up on the front and doing a lot of the pass rush. So for me, I would have all the confidence in the world that Dan Quinn's going to have something in place. If all of a sudden you start to get a heavy dose of that zone read, that Mike is going to have, see quarterback, get quarterback. Let's get the ball handed off or pitched. But you've got one responsibility. We don't want you thinking and slowing down out there.
Cowboy legend Moose Johnston with us here on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. What did you find interesting sitting down? Who'd you get to sit down with and lead up to this game on the Cowboys side of things?
We got to sit down with Coach McCarthy, Coach Quinn, and Dak Prescott. So I think the big thing for us was all the talk about the Texas Coast offense and the changes there that it's not really as dramatic as you're kind of hearing from the outside when you get an opportunity to visit. To me, it's more of a change in philosophy than it is anything from a schematic standpoint. Tony got into the nuts and bolts last weekend in the game against the Jets of of the way that everything is tied into the footwork, and that's classic Green Bay. Have talked multiple times with Green Bay coaches in the Packer organization, or when they go out, where they try to implement that system in theirs. And Mike has got that same component with the passing game. But for me, the big thing is everybody is now kind of detailed in on what the offense is trying to do. That was the big takeaway that I had. That all the wide receivers, all the tight ends, all the running backs understand all the detail. The offensive line, which Coach McCarthy said he probably challenged more than anybody because the protections is where there was some change. And he said Tyler Broaddus has done a great job there, kind of coordinating all that up front. So that was the one area that I thought was interesting as well, is the amount of detail where they sit in the room and everybody kind of knows exactly where the ball should go based on the coverage at that time. And I think that helps when you're in a situation like you're in right now as a receiver that's maybe not getting the ball all that much, and CeeDee Lamb is having a great start to the season, that you understand why, because that's the progression that Dak is going to, because you understand the detail of that offense.
Moose, you mentioned with Tyler Broaddus and what he's been able to do this year. We're starting to hear reports that him being out potentially, and then maybe Zach Martin being out. How does that affect, how you play today with your starting center likely out of the lineup?
Yeah, if you're going to have a weekend where that actually happens, this might be the weekend that you want it to. Arizona is down, 2 people on their defensive line. I think they get Lecky Fotu back today. He may slide out to the defensive end because they're extremely thin on the inside of their defensive line. It was probably one of the positions on the Arizona Cardinal team that didn't have great depth coming into training camp, and then they took some injuries on top of that. So if you're going to have a day where you don't have your original 5 starters out there, which Dallas hasn't had yet, this might be the weekend to do it. But you have to be careful, because the one thing that really kind of jumps out at you on film when you watch Arizona, a team that everybody kind of on a consensus said, probably the 32nd ranked team coming into the season.
Yeah.
A lot of unknowns about what Jonathan Gannon was going to be able to do in year one, trying to build this thing up from the ground floor. But when you watch them, they play fast, and they're starting to learn the details. They'll start to, the mistakes will reduce in number as they move forward. But I was always impressed this first 2 weeks just watching, how quickly they run. We all talk about the speed that Dallas plays with. You see a similar style of play with Arizona. They just don't have the talent in that defensive front right now. But you're going to get a ton of hustle. If you make a mistake, they're going to take advantage of it. We all know how important sacks and turnovers are, and Arizona's done a great job of that in the first 2 games.
Moose, what stood out to you when studying this Cowboys rushing attack?
I've been very impressed, not just Tony Pollard, but the whole group. If you're going to get into a little bit by committee, obviously Tony's the lead guy and had a great game last week. I think the big thing for us is, how does he look today? Has he recovered during the course of the practice week and he's ready to go? That's a career high at any level for Tony Pollard when you talk about touches last weekend. But I've been impressed with Rico Dowdle. I've always been a big fan of Deuce Vaughn, even back in his days at Kansas State. So I think they've got a great room there. And, for me, it gives you the opportunity, to make sure everybody is healthy. Tony is going to be your lead guy, but because the talent that's behind him and the dynamic ability that both of those 2 guys have, there's definitely an opportunity to give Tony a little bit of a rest and not, lose a whole lot with your explosive capabilities at the running back position.
Moose, before we let you go out of here, everybody's kind of wondering about Michael Gallup, and I kind of feel like that maybe he might be a little bit of a round peg in a square hole situation. Maybe the scheme not the best with the quickness or the quick routes or the things that he has to deal with, the timing stuff. Is there something that you've noticed with him and the way that he's played here the last couple of weeks?
I think the expectations were probably high for Michael coming into the season. He coming back off the ACL and then having some injuries last season, never really up to full speed. And you hope to have that at the start of this year. And it just hasn't worked out that way through the first 2 weeks. But that's why, I mentioned, the start that CeeDee has, really what we learned from the coaches, what they told us was, listen, it's not that the other guys are struggling It's that CD is playing so well.
Right.
And there's obviously a conscious effort to get him moved throughout the formation, to give him opportunities to be number one in the progression. And so with these guys understanding the detail of the offense and then being able to come in on Monday and watch it on film and go, okay, that's why the ball's not coming our way. And eventually it's going to. Eventually defenses are going to start to say, listen, CeeDee Lamb is not going to beat us today. We're going to force Michael Gallup. We're going to force Jalen Tolbert. We're going to force somebody else to beat us on the outside today. And when that comes around, I think then you start to see, how is the fit for Michael Gallup in this offense? A lot of people talk about him being kind of that vertical threat, that downfield guy. I see more than that for Michael's game than just being an outside guy on go routes and things like that. And it's one of the things that receivers learn in the NFL is you have to become a great route runner. I mean, you're not going to make a living on the outside. And it's the cornerbacks are too good. 50-50, you're not going to make a living out there. You've got to be able to move into the slot. You've got to be able to run into the middle of the field. You've got to have, some dynamic movement with your change of direction. But the precision in the route running is something that comes along, and I expect to start to see that improve with all the young guys, right now into this offense, because everything we're hearing is how detailed they talk about, the progression of the play and how it times up with the feet, that you have to be at this landmark, that you have to be in this position. So I think as they start to understand the importance of that, they'll start to see the ball come their way more and then kind of get that full buy-in.
Talking with Cowboy legend Moose Johnston here on The Fan. Moose is a guy who's played in a lot of games as a heavy favorite. What's the mindset got to be for the Cowboys today going into Arizona?
Well, you never look at the line, right? Anything can happen on any given Sunday. So, you throw records out the window. We had some losses during our time when we were winning Super Bowls. We lost teams we never should have lost to. And it's not because we weren't prepared. I don't think we ever looked past anybody. I think you just have to understand that anything can happen on any given Sunday. And this is a team that is got a different energy about it. This is not your same Arizona Cardinals that we've seen over the last couple of seasons. So that would be the biggest concern I have, is they've got to come out, they've got to match the speed, the intensity, the offensive line. If there are issues there, assert your dominance as quickly as possible. I think it'll be interesting to see Mike McCarthy's play calling in the first couple of series, just to see where he thinks the matchups are favorable to him today. Is this one of those days where this is the philosophy that we brought to this offense this year, but today we may have to do things a little bit differently? Mm-hmm. And if so, what would those choices be? It's an opportunity for the tight ends to have a big role in it. It's an opportunity for the running backs to have a big role in it. So I think that's the big thing. But this is not a team that you want to look past. They've lost 14 out of 15 home games here. The Cowboys have struggled with them over the last 7 games. So there's a lot that's out there that could point to the fact that this could be closer than we anticipate. But that's why this team will be defensively driven this season, and that defense has to come out and just take away any hope that Arizona Cardinal team has by just dominating them from the get-go.
Moose, we get to hang out with Babe Laufenberg coming up here in just a few minutes, and can we confirm that he's the one who gets the credit? Babe gets the credit for the Moose nickname?
Yes. He's still waiting for his royalties, too.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, we had chatted with him a couple of weeks ago about that. I heard you on a podcast over the summer mention that. I'm like, oh, my gosh, my guy Babe. I didn't realize he's the one credited. So that is very, very cool. Moose, we appreciate the time. Always a treat, sir. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys. Good talking to you. Enjoy the game.
Thank you very much. There he goes. Cowboy legend, Fox Television's own Moose Johnston on today's call with Joe Davis and Pam Oliver. We'll get to Deuce Vaughn here in just a minute. It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. The Cowboys special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. We learned the shoe size recently in the G-Bag Nation of the 5'5" Deuce Vaughn. And we were all surprised about that. If you didn't hear it, you can text in your guesses, and then Broaddus will break the news thanks to his wonderful sources on the shoe size of Deuce Vaughn. It was a surprise, I would say, to just about all of us in the G-Bag Nation a few weeks ago. But today's player profile with the 3-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold is with the young man, Deuce Vaughn, Cowboy, already a Cowboy legend, I feel like, in his own right. Here he is, today's player profile with Chris Arnold.
Deuce Vaughn, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. It looks like you are settling into your role with the Dallas Cowboys.
Trying to, man. Anything they put on my plate, man, I'm willing to take and just help the team win every single weekend and throughout the day is what I'm trying to achieve.
How does it feel to be a fan favorite right off the jump? I mean, I guess it started from draft day, the big surprise for your dad. But, I mean, you are a weapon. In college, you're a weapon at Kansas State, and you've earned the right to play as much as you've been playing.
Yes, sir. I feel like for myself to come in as a fan favorite, I mean, that's huge to have the fan base behind you. I feel like I'm going to represent this team and represent those fans every single time that I step onto the football field. And for myself, it's all about the work that I've put in since I was a young kid to get to this point. And it doesn't change once I get to this point. I'm always hungry for more, always hungry to become the best player that I can be. And that just happens every single day with the way that I attack this process.
Well, let's talk about how they've been using you. First of all, in the preseason, it was amazing. First game against the Giants, it was raining, pouring rain. And basically, let's mop up this game. You were doing basically Emmitt Smith stuff. Let's control the clock and let's get this thing over with. But you also, in this game against the Jets, they had some packages for you early on. Were you prepared for that? Did you know they were going to call your number that early?
Yeah, those are some of the things that we talked about throughout the week. And like I said, anything they put in my plate, they feel like I'm ready for. I'm gonna take that opportunity and run with it. It's big time that they have the faith in me, even that early into the Jets game, to say, okay, we're gonna put you in. We're gonna let you go play some football, and it's huge for my confidence. It's huge for just going forward. And man, like I said, whatever they put on my plate, man, I'm ready to tackle.
Okay, so tell the truth. How nice is it not to be a decoy?
Man, what's it called? I mean, at K-State, it's really cool to be a decoy just because you open up things for guys on that are playing alongside with you. So I've grown to that role, and I became accustomed to it, and I understood that what I'm doing right now is helping these guys around me win, helping these guys around me be successful. And man, like I said, I mean, no matter decoy, not a decoy, getting the football, not getting the football, running somebody out of there, that's what I'm going to do to help the team win.
There's some packages where you and Kevontae Turpin out at the same time. How many of those they got for you guys?
It was that package.
It's like picky poison?
Yes, sir, 100%. And Turpin's been somebody that I've gotten with since I first got here. You see the athleticism, you see the way that he plays, you see the way that he goes to work, and the way he moves on a football field, man. I'm asking him questions, and I'm seeing exactly how he moves and stuff like that to be able to kind of hone in on my skills and become a better football player every single day.
Okay, you got the Cardinals this afternoon. What are you expecting? I heard they got a very physical defense.
Yes, sir. Just play our brand of football, be ourselves, and go out there and just play complimentary football. We know the defense can go out there and play well, and it's our job as an offense to play complimentary football with them and go out there and put points on the board and keep them out of the end zone. For us, we just got to go out there and do what we can do, and that's from all the work that we put in throughout this week and to go in here and just celebrate our work.
Final question: what's your pregame routine on a road trip? What do you do? Do you have to have certain kind of music, kind of eat a certain kind of meal?
Yeah, so I got a playlist that I listen to, and I got about 60. Respect the Game by Meek Mill is the first song I put on every single time that I hit the field. I walk the field, I touch both goalposts, I have that song on, and that's one of my rituals that I have.
All right, congratulations for making the team and doing what you do. Thanks, Deuce.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you, Deuce Vaughn. Thank you, Chris Arnold. Today's player profile here on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys, 877-881-1053. Guess that shoe size is the game we're playing. Just one round of it, and it'll feature the 5'5" Deuce Vaughn. What size do you believe his shoe is? The 817 throwing out a 6, which feels slightly disrespectful.
That's very disrespectful.
As a grown man here.
Very disrespectful.
Okay. We got a 214 guessing size 13. Okay, so they're going the other way with it.
There they go.
Kenny and Quinlan, our good buddy, 214, guessing the 7.5. I think I was guessing. I think I guessed maybe 7.5, 8. You know, because I got.
I'm surprised Kenny didn't get this one right because he listens to the show all the time.
So we were at Twin Peaks, and he was there with us.
Oh,
he was donging around.
Good point.
And so I think he missed this.
Okay.
So he was there, and he was schmoozing.
Was he signing autographs?
Yeah, you know how he is. He's dapping up with Tolos, hanging out with the young ladies at at Twin Peaks, enjoying himself. Man,
yeah.
There's the eats, the drinks, and the scenic views. So we got 10.5 guessing in the 214. 10s are starting to stroll in quite a bit. 469 Leroy guessing the 10.5. 682 guessing that 12. We got a couple of strong Tolos that already know the answer because they're studs in the 940 and the 903. Probably listening to the G-Bag Nation that day when they guessed it and nailed it. 9.5's coming in here, but the correct answer for the shoe size of one, Deuce Vaughn, he's 5'5". Bryan Broaddus, with your sources, you can confirm the shoe size is
11.
11. And I was not expecting that.
Nope.
When I guessed 8, I wasn't even thinking anywhere
Everybody
close to 11.
Everybody was going 8.5, 9.
It's weird. The height sort of matters with shoe size, but then it sort of doesn't. Like, you hear all these NBA players, and they're giants.
Yeah.
They're aliens. They're 6'5", they're 6'9", they're 7 feet, and it's like size 15, size 17. You're like, okay, that makes sense. And then I got normal size friends that are like 5'11", and they'll have like a tiny shoe size, or maybe an abnormally huge one. So I don't know how much it actually matters, but you always kind of correlate height with shoe size to an extent. And I would think if it was officially 100% true every time, height to shoe size, I would think Deuce Vaughn at 5'5" would probably be like a size 8.
Yeah.
Size 8.5. But my man's rocking that 11. So congratulations to Deuce Vaughn on that, and congratulations to the Tolos that absolutely just nailed it here on the truckwreck.com fan text at 877-881-1053. It is a Cowboy game day. Cowboys at Cardinals. There's good news and bad news. The good news is the Cardinals are missing some guys on that defensive line. So that's going to help things as the Cowboys are going to be welcoming back Tyler Smith to left guard, and we will be waving goodbye to Tyler Broaddus at center and Zach Martin at right guard. So what does that do? We're thinking about Hoffman at center.
Yes. I wonder if Adoga, how much work did he get this week, with the elbow that he was dealing with? So
right.
Could this be TJ Bass?
Who was impressive, right? Versus the Jets?
Been okay. So,
but that was at left guard, and now this would be on the right side, but that's just the way it goes when you're a backup guy.
Yeah, Adoga is proven that he can more than handle the situation playing guard. I'm really not a fan of his playing tackle, but him playing guard would be all right. So my anticipation would be Smith, Hoffman, Adoga, and Steele would be your offensive line today. That would be my anticipation.
Okay, with TJ Bass floating around as a possibility.
Possibility guy, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the Cardinals, I know they got a decent pass rush. I know they run an interesting bear front that is going to have the center and the guards covered by defensive linemen. It's a little bit of a unique scheme, and that could provide some challenges there for the center and the guard that are going to be backups here for the Cowboys today. But do they blitz? Are they exotic? Do they run man? Are they pretty simple?
Yeah, they play a combination of really some zone and man coverage. They're probably going to have to play. My guess is they'll play more zone against these Cowboy receivers, just because they're probably worried about. They really don't handle separation all that well when it comes to closing and running with. So probably a little bit more zone. Where you have to be aware of them is they're not a big blitz team, but they are relentless in the way they do rush the passer. And we talked about it with Dave Pasch. The voice of the Cardinals with Dennis Gardick is an interesting story. He's number 40. If you see this number 45 running around out there making plays, you've known that any platform you've listened to me on this week, I've talked quite a bit about him and his ability to present that pressure. They're a team that they like to put 2 down linemen and then kind of have everybody else just kind of stand around. So it's much like what the Cowboys do, with their front. You have a couple guys down and then
speed, versatility,
a combination of linebackers, safeties, corners. I mean, slot players. Everybody's kind of standing around. This is going to be a really important day. If the Cowboys have success up front, it's likely going to be because of a guy like Brock Hoffman was able to sort everything out. He was able to kind of get them in the right scheme or the right blocking, for the play, get them in the blocking position they need to be in. So that's where there's a lot on his plate today, just because it's kind of a unique front, and he is going to be covered in these games. There's going to be a guy on his nose that he's going to have to deal with. So make the call, make the snap, make the block. A lot on Brock Hoffman's plate today.
We're 2 hours to kick right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. It is great to have you in on a Cowboy game day. Cowboys at Cardinals. Let's go out to Arizona and welcome in our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, next right here on The Fan.
Tom Thumb's new Drive Up and Go service makes grocery shopping easy and convenient.
pizza.
Less than 2 hours to kick off. Cowboys and Cardinals. Here are your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Let's go inside the Star with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, Big Game Bob. And Bobby, happy game day to you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. I've described Broaddus as he's coming across as a bit queasy when it comes to this particular matchup. He was
queasy,
nervous.
you said?
Yeah, he was nervous heading in, but then with all the offensive line stuff going on with the Cowboys right now, I consider him queasy about this matchup. He's leaking confidence. Can you give us some positivity here? Or are you a little bit nervous yourself?
Look, I mean, it's not ideal to lose two starting offensive linemen and have a third that's banged up. So yeah, that's that right there is in and of itself a little troubling. And even when you consider Tyler Smith being back, he's working his way back in, and it's his first game, and he's still got to find his footing. And then the right tackle's a guy who's still working back from an ACL. So I understand all the concerns about the offensive line. Here is the good news: your entire roster is better than their entire roster.
No, absolutely.
This is still a game where even if there's some issues in the trenches or you're a little vulnerable there, this is a team you should still beat. You're much better than them.
No, you're absolutely better than them. I just, I'm always one of these guys that believes in desperate team theories, and, the fact that the Cowboys with some really good teams have gone out to the desert and struggled before.
Sure.
And weird things happen, whether it's at Sun Devil Stadium or this State Farm Stadium where you're at right now. I just worry about with so much going on with the offensive line, and the injury to Broaddus was kind of late in the week. How much opportunity did Brock Hoffman really get to practice? The first game back was with Smith at left guard. I just, to me, the one thing that Arizona can do is rush the passer. That's kind of where I'm at on that. Everything else is they can't cover very well. But if you find a way to protect, if you had your five guys up front, I would feel a lot better about it. Okay, let's protect this thing, and then all of a sudden you got some opportunities to throw the ball, and you still might be able to do that.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this entire scheme, this entire system is bop 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 out like the ball, like in terms of the passing game. It's 3-step, 5-step, get the ball out, quick release. And so that can mask over a lot of pass protection issues, by itself, just how quick you get the ball out. And so, I think the way they've run the offense the last couple weeks and the way they've run the passing game, it's not been something where the offensive line has had a lot of, hasn't had a huge burden in terms of how long they have to protect Dak. And so if they're going to run a lot of that stuff today, I think that alleviates some of the pressure from a guy like Brock Hoffman or whoever else may be out there. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if it's still a little bit more of the same. Just, step back, get the ball out quickly. Don't give them enough time to get to the quarterback. Don't run around for 4 seconds. Don't hang around with long developing pass plays. I do think this is a secondary you can take advantage of down the field. But if you're going to have trouble blocking it up, then, just roll with things the way you have been. And I still think it'll be enough for the Cowboys to be comfortable in this game.
Is today a game where you'd like to see the passing game be diversified a little bit in terms of, it feels like it's been CeeDee Lamb and then just sort of everybody else? Maybe Michael Gallup gets going. You get Brandon Cooks back today. That's one of the things. I love getting Lamb involved early and often, but you're kind of wondering who's going to be the next guy here.
Yeah, and it's a fair question to ask because, it's something where I heard Moose just tell you guys, what happens when somebody takes CeeDee Lamb away, or teams are eventually going to commit to, let's take CeeDee Lamb away. And that's something Bryan and I talked about this week a lot, was what does the offense look like when that happens? I think it was actually Babe this week who had the note that CeeDee's the only receiver in the NFL who has over half of his team's receiving yards. And so that's, they've leaned on him pretty heavily to this point. He has been their passing game. And there's obviously some concern about putting too many of your eggs in one basket. But there's the flip side of that, and the more positive way I guess you could look at it, is just to say he's that good. He's just that good that he is your best option and that he's going to make things tough on opposing defenses. And so I don't hate relying on a stud receiver like CeeDee Lamb is, but I absolutely understand wanting to diversify things and make sure that you've got enough depth behind that. And look, I think that Jalen Tolbert has shown some flashes. I think in week 1, Brandon Cooks looked good. Still waiting for Michael Gallup to come around a little bit, but if you need to get some alternative passing options going, I think it's a comfort that you get Cooks back. Tolbert's getting more comfortable, and hopefully you can get Gallup going.
Bobby, what do you worry about, if anything at all? What do you worry about Arizona's offense?
Josh Dobbs is not bad. I turned on the tape this week and I was watching him play these first couple games. He makes some good throws. And he looks comfortable in this offense. He doesn't look rattled doing anything. So, I think that if he's able to play in the 10 to 20 yard space comfortably, if he's able to kind of roll outside of the pocket instead of just driving him back, having him extend the pocket, if he's able to break outside and make some throws on the run, that can be problematic. I think if you're not bringing James Conner down the first time, and he's able to bounce off tacklers and get ahead of steam going, I think if Arizona's going to challenge Dallas in any way today, that'll be how it's going to have to be done. It's going to be James Conner, kind of wreck and shop a little bit, and then that's setting up some more comfortable looks for Josh Dobbs to do what he does. And Dobbs does the read option really well.
Yeah.
He does a good job concealing who's got the ball. Like, is he keeping it? Is he handing it off?
It's one of their better plays. I mean, when you watch them, it's
absolutely.
actually when they run the ball, it's one of their better things that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I would think Zach Ertz is averaging 6 yards a catch. It's not been super impressive, but take away the comfort throws. Take away the safety net. Take away the guy that Josh Dobbs has routinely said, all right, here's my security, which is normal of inexperienced quarterbacks. A lot of inexperienced quarterbacks like to lean on the tight end in a lot of offenses. So take away that option as best you can and make him make some throws downfield against a secondary that's been really, really good, even though you will be missing, Trayvon Diggs today and the rest of the way.
Cowboys insider Bobby Boat with us here on The Fan. Yeah, the Diggs trickle effect. You get Bland on the boundary, more Jordan Lewis obviously in the slot. Could you see some Mukuamu as well? Felt like he played pretty well there late in last season.
I thought he played well out there last year. They certainly have the flexibility to do that with him if they want. They have that flexibility to do that with a lot of their guys. It's something where even their corners, Bland can have a little bit of safety flex. I know they like cross-training guys in the secondary and on the offensive line to do different things. And so, if they wanted him to do some of that, I think he's capable of it. I thought he had a good training camp last year and played well in spots last year at corner. This training camp, it didn't look as good. I was hoping he'd step up a little bit more. But I'm still a believer in his skill set, and I feel like maybe that was a little bit more a function of he got banged up really early in camp. And then we just haven't been, we haven't got a chance to see it in the regular season this year yet. But Mukuamu's definitely an option if they wanted to go that route. But this is also a 3-corner league, and 3 corners stay on the field the vast majority of the time these days. So, I think it's Lewis, it's Bland, it's Gilmore, and then if you run into any more injuries from there, well, now you've got a bigger problem where you're probably looking at talking about acquiring somebody rather than just filling with what you have.
When you start to talk about with these 3 corners playing today, Lewis just, on a pitch count last week, has anybody told you anything different? Is he full go for this campaign, or are they going to roll guys in at the nickel spot?
No, it sounds like he's ready to go here. I could still see them just strategically rolling some guys in, not necessarily out of any sort of fear or anything like that. Jordan Lewis is telling people in the locker he's ready to go.
Yeah.
And that he's ready to play, and he doesn't feel that he's in need of any sort of a pitch count. And so I think that's likely the expectation there. Roll with that a little bit. Maybe they roll some extra safety coverage, and like I said, if they use a Mukuamu or somebody like that, they can do that a little bit. Play some safety guys in the slot position a little bit if they need to, and so they can tap into that. But I think largely this today is Jordan Lewis, Stephon Gilmore, Deron Bland, and Lewis. He seems really excited for the opportunity. He seems happy to be back. He's had a lot of adversity throughout his career here in terms of just. He was injured early on his rookie year. The second year, he got hamstrung a little bit by some of the beliefs about length that Chris Richard had, and that limited his opportunities in 2018. And he fought to stay on this roster and has contributed consistently since then. So, he's one of the most mentally tough individuals on the football team, and he's somebody that I think is really prepared to attack this head on. And look, it's a benefit to have somebody like Jordan Lewis, a 7-year veteran, who has a high football IQ and can step in and play when you have somebody go down. A lot of teams don't have that luxury to say, well, we have this guy just kind of sitting on the bench that can step in and be our third corner now.
You'll be happy to know Dave Pasch, the voice of the Cardinals, he was on the call for Texas and Baylor yesterday. He thinks your Longhorns.
I saw that.
He thinks they might be the best team in the entire country, Bob.
They're top 5. I don't know that I would take them as the top team in the country. Georgia's still got to lose a game, I feel like, before I feel comfortable
keep
saying
an eye
no to
on
them.
Washington, the Huskies.
Man, Washington, Florida State, and USC are all really good this year. Texas is right there with them. I think there's 6 really good football teams right now. It's Georgia, Michigan, USC, Florida State, Washington, and Texas. Those are the 6 that I really like.
True or false, Bobby Belt in Arizona last night was sitting at the hotel bar and watching all the college football.
False. Bobby Belt stayed in his hotel room, didn't get out of Arizona at all, had some stuff to do, so messed around on the laptop for a little bit, ordered dinner in, and then just kind of sat back, watched Texas play, watched a little bit of USC after that, and got a good night's sleep. Got a good 10 hours in.
Nice, dude. Nice. I'm proud of you for that. That was an adult decision. That Ohio State Notre Dame game was the game you should have been watching.
Yeah, should have been watching that one.
That thing was wild at the end.
I already know those 2 frauds. I don't need to see which of the frauds pulled it out in the end. All right, so I mean, look, that's what I did. I make adult decisions. That's why they call me Big Game Bob.
That's why they call you Big Game Bobby Belt. Have a great one, dude. Enjoy this game. It is a big one, so show out like we know you will.
I love you all.
Love you back. There he goes. Cowboys insider Bobby Belt here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan, brought to you by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It is Miller time. And speaking of Miller time, what's on the menu? What's on the menu as we approach kickoff here? We're under 2 hours to kickoff. What are you grilling? And what are you chilling on right now? I'm sure there's a lot of Miller Lite and Vizzy Hard Seltzers. Broaddus was swimming in that Vizzy Hard Seltzer watching his LSU Tigers take on those Razorbacks yesterday.
I was like Bobby. I was sitting at home doing a big bag of nothing, texting David Hellman every series. He and I had a comment going back and forth about
just mother-bleeping your team.
Occasionally, yeah, along the way. Yeah.
It's the way it goes, dude. But you're feeling good right now with your Survivor pick, the G-Bag Nation Survivor picks.
How about
that? You got the Dolphins. They're up 35-13. At the end of half number 1 versus the Broncos. So that should be smooth sailing. But our guy Walchuk, he had himself a night last night. Congratulations. The newly engaged Zachary Walchuk, the Woolly Bully. How about that? She said yes. She said yes. I mean, against all odds, man. He did it, and we're so proud of him. We're so happy for him. But he's got to be – I know Broaddus is a little queasy for the Cowboy game today, but these Jaguars are just fumble-farting around versus the Texans. And
my man Doug Peterson not getting it done today.
That's the guy, dude. Both of Broaddus's guys. Broaddus is a Super Bowl champion. He's an NFL lifer. He's besties with the likes of Sean Payton and Doug Peterson, and both of their teams are just absolutely pooping themselves today.
Yeah, it looks like we have a little problem, though. The Saints are up 17-0 on the Packers here starting the second half, but it looks like that Derek Carr is injured, and Jameis Winston looks like he's getting ready to roll into this game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Quarterback down in a game that the Saints are doing a really good job of creating turnovers on defense, playing really, really well, but it looks like their quarterback might be in some pain right now.
Buffalo Bills are up 16-0 on the Washington Commanders in Washington. How about that? I thought the Commanders were a team I was keeping my eye on a little bit through the first 2 weeks.
My quarterback's throwing some interceptions here today.
Howell is 9 for 15, 97 yards, but he's got 2 picks. Yeah. He's been sacked 3 times. The Buffalo defense playing pretty well. Josh Allen spinning it for a touchdown, and the Bills look like the team that you thought they were going to be after that Week 1 disaster versus the Jets. Aaron Rodgers goes down. The Bills still lose in overtime. And then the last 2 weeks, all they've done is just dominate really for the last 6 quarters. So we'll see how the Commanders fare in half number 2. But there's a little look around the NFL and the NFC East. Of course, the Eagles play tomorrow versus the Bucs. I think that'll be an interesting matchup there as Jalen Hurts has struggled versus the Buccaneers throughout his short career to this point. So that'll be fun to break down tomorrow, hopefully on a Cowboy victory Monday. And let's go ahead and go back out to Arizona. Let's welcome in Babe Laufenberg and get the rundown on Dak's comfort level, what he sees with Josh Jobs, and everything else in regards to Cowboys Cardinals coming up next right here on The Fan.
Is your workplace on top of it?
kickoff. Welcome into the official pregame show of America's team. We got lasagna in the oven, slow cooking in the 254, Broaddus. That sounds really like good. A heady play.
That sounds really good.
562's rocking on that Crown and Diet Pepsi. We got Kenny and Quinlan. He's eating on some chicken wings, and we got some Cajun hot dogs and Texas hot dogs going with some Miller Lite and some smoked boudin. That's Bill from Little Elm. I don't even know what a Cajun hot dog is. I'm going to need to get the answer from that, from the 281.
Probably something to do with andouille sausage, would be my guess.
Some andouille situations going on. And then our guy Mike in Caddo Mills always getting it done with the Miller Lite and grilling some honey soy ginger glazed pork. So the menus are alive and popping here in the DFW Metroplex, ladies and gentlemen. And now we head out to Arizona and welcome in our guy Babe Laufenberg. Babe, happy game day to you, sir. What have you seen from this Josh Dobbs fella? Actually, no, I take that back. What's the perfect menu item for Babe Laufenberg if you were sitting on your couch right now soaking in some NFL Red Zone on a football Sunday? Are you doing some ginger glazed pork? Are you doing some Cajun hot dogs? What is on the menu for Babe in a perfect scenario?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't get real fancy. Like after last week's game, I come home, I order a pizza, I open a bottle of wine, I kick my feet up, and to me that's perfect. And then you watch, of course, the Sunday night game.
Yes.
But I will tell you, I heard somebody doing a lasagna.
Yes.
And I think we all like the lasagna that we like, right? Mm-hmm. My mom was born in Italy.
Oh.
So she made lasagna.
She did with bechamel, didn't she? Bechamel?
Nothing compared, though.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't. Nothing compared to my mom's lasagna.
Yeah.
But I hope everybody feels the same way about their mom's lasagna.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Mom's lasagna is the best lasagna.
Yeah.
The pizza and the wine combo is beautiful, babe. So salute to you for that. Now, when it comes to this Josh Dobbs fella, they played him last year, and he was actually kind of impressive with the Titans last year, and now he's making some plays out there.
You know, it's interesting because you watched the game last week against the Giants, and he made a lot of good throws, a lot of good decisions. He's just one of those guys that has bounced around, so you have this preconceived notion, well, if he was any good, this team would have kept him, that team would have kept him. And he's gotten into these situations where last year against the Cowboys, right, for Tennessee, he had a week of practice. This year, they signed him or traded for him August 25th, so he's learning the offense. He worked with the offensive coordinator in Cleveland. He was the quarterback coach there, but Drew Petzing. But here he comes in. He's trying to learn all these guys. So that's what happens, though, when you do move around a little bit. You always end up starting or being the starter in bad situations, and I think that's where he is a little bit. Here's one for you. You know, maybe you guys talked about it, and I apologize. I run around here at the stadium, and so I don't get to hear the whole pregame show, unfortunately. But, you know, he was picked at number 135 in the 2017 draft. Dak was picked at number 135 in the 2016 draft.
Yeah.
So when they came out, they were both viewed as kind of the same guy. I know it was different drafts, but fourth round, 135th pick. And we know what Dak has become, and we know that Joshua Dobbs has had to kind of make his way around the NFL. But really, really smart guy. They're going to use him in the run game. Obviously, he's a really good runner. And we'll see what it brings him. I just don't think Arizona has enough firepower on the outside. You know, Zach Ertz, great tight end, 11th year in the league. Not the same Zach Ertz that we saw in Philadelphia. They're going to pound the ball. I'm sure you guys have discussed this, but James Conner, their tailback, is going to get a heavy workload today.
Yeah, absolutely. Babe, if these are the games, though, and I know as a former player, it probably bothered you, too, when you were favored, and you're kind of like, they always say, well, it's the NFL any given Sunday and stuff like that. I really do believe that with this game today. And I totally understand why everybody's saying, you know, they don't have enough talent in this, that, and the other. The film to me showed like the capability of making some plays. When you talk about Dobbs and Conner and their pass rush a little bit, you know, all it does is, take a couple of offensive linemen off your team this week, and then let's go block these guys. Do these games worry you too, or am I being a nervous ninny about the thing?
No, I think anybody that watches long enough worries about these games because it just isn't. It's not McNeese State playing Alabama.
Right.
These are NFL players. They're all capable guys on the Cardinals. Are the Cowboys better? Yes. if the ball doesn't bounce their way, they don't have Tyler Broaddus this game to recover fumbles.
Right. That's exactly right.
Broaddus mentioned that. Who's going
to recover fumbles now? Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. But, the ball, it bounces funny ways. And when it bounces your way, you win. And when it doesn't, you lose. And but again, if the Cowboys play their game and the Arizona Cardinals play their game, the Cowboys are going to win this thing.
Right.
Well, Babe, from a quarterback standpoint, how challenging is it to go from one center to the other, especially when it's a guy in Hoffman who's not really got much in the way of experience?
No, I think it changes things. I always look for the center quarterback exchange because typically that starter is going to work only with the starting center. He's not. You might get snaps in warm-up drills and things of that nature. And with Tyler Broaddus getting hurt later in the week, they didn't have the whole week to get together on snaps. And some of it is snaps, some of it is cadence, getting used to the cadence. And so, it's definitely something that you would keep your eye on. And then setting the blocking schemes. Now, there's a little bit of a misnomer that the center goes up and he calls his blocking scheme, and then the quarterback calls his. They're on the same page on those. They're trying to identify the same things in terms of that front and where they're sending the blocking and things of that nature. I do think one of the things that really got overlooked for me in Dak's rookie season when he was so good, and they go 13-3, he had Travis Frederick, one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet, up there at center. And that really helped him, I think, direct some things. And so the things that Dak may not have been totally sure of when he got up to the line in those situations, Travis Frederick was there to help him out. Again, it's a small thing. Nobody's going to talk about that on the Sunday highlights. But it was a big thing. So Brock Hoffman, new guy, we'll see.
Babe, we've all trying to kind of figure out what we're going to get from Michael Gallup here. And it hasn't been as great as we all kind of thought it might be the first couple of games. Arizona's secondary, I don't think, is particularly good. They don't cover all that well, and there's separation. Is this a game that we're going to look back and say, oh, this kind of got Gallup going, for the rest of the year, a game like today maybe?
I get the sense, and it's not through a personal interaction or texting Coach McCarthy, but I get the sense that early in this game, Michael Gallup is going to get a couple of balls thrown his way. And it could be just smoke screen, little screen. I mean, not something where they're going to go deep to him, but I think they want to get him involved. And the interesting thing is it's not like he has been targeted 12 times, right? And he's got 2 catches. They haven't even targeted him, and he's played a bunch. It's also not like he's been getting 15 snaps a game. So, again, I think they're going to come into this one and want to get him involved a little because those guys, hey, we all know those wide receivers, they can kind of go away a little bit. You think you're running hard, but you're not running as hard as you were. He's run 70 pass patterns, got the ball twice. So it's just human nature where you say, well, I'm probably not going to get it here. So I do think, early on, be surprised if Michael Gallup doesn't come out of the first quarter with 2 or 3 catches.
Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan. Babe, through 2 games, what have you noticed about Dak and just his comfort level in this new offense?
Obviously so far so good, right? He's looked sharp. Hasn't had to win the game. Hadn't had to put it on his shoulders right at the end of the game. So they've kind of been walkaways at the end of these things, and and that's really without a running game. For the most part, Cowboys have not run the ball well. Pollard's under 4 yards a carry. Rico Dowdle under 4. Deuce Vaughn under 3. So it's not a situation where they've been taking all the pressure off Dak because they've run the ball so well. They have not.
Yeah.
And, obviously Arizona missing a couple of their defensive linemen today, but Cowboys missing a couple of their offensive linemen. So that may be a wash in terms of that. But I have a question for you guys. I want to make sure I ask it, especially to Bryan. Okay, Arizona, we don't think they're going to be good at the end of the year, right?
You would rather play them at the end than you would right now, yes.
Yeah, and Houston, we don't think at the end of the year they're going to sit there with 10 wins, although they are winning today.
They are winning today, yes.
Arizona has their own first-round pick, and they also have Houston's first-round pick.
Yeah.
So, if you're sitting there with 2 top 5 picks, and for all we know, one of them may be the first overall. Is the Kyler Murray era over in Arizona and the Caleb Williams era beginning?
Man, I'll tell you what, I don't know a lot about the cap stuff. I mean, there were some really smart guys and gals I worked with in Dallas that figured all that out. The whole thing with Kyler Murray, do you bite the bullet on that, with that money? I don't know. I think, to me, I would need Kyler Murray to come back and play and kind of figure some things out and to see with the new staff and all that. But, I mean, Caleb Williams, it might not just be Caleb Williams, babe. I mean, there might be the guy Hartman at Notre Dame,
Drake
May at North Carolina. I mean, it seems like to me there might be 4 or 5 guys that we're looking at, when we get ready to start covering the draft again. That quarterbacks that teams might not have to move, but they might say, listen, this is just too good of an opportunity to pass on a guy like this, for sure.
Yeah. And to me, Caleb Williams he's that once every 10-year guy.
You know what's funny?
Special.
I will say this, though. There will be an NFL team that has Hartman at Notre Dame higher than him.
Oh,
there'll be because we all don't see these guys the same way. Everybody's like, oh, well, hey, I this guy's clearly, and then you will start to hear people taking shots at Caleb Williams.
Oh, no,
when we
question.
get to the draft process.
Yeah.
Well, I always say the draft is like your 10th grade biology class where you take that frog and you stick it and poke it and pull the legs.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'll bet anybody out there, whatever we want to bet, Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick in this draft.
Oh, no, I totally,
but we'll hear all the other stuff.
No,
they're interested in
you
this.
will.
You
will absolutely hear it all. Yep.
And then Caleb Williams will be the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yep.
I was at Myles Garrett's draft party. And remember that whole buzz started that day? Who was the number 1 pick in the draft? Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Now, you guys have to promise me one thing, though. You don't tell Brad Sham that I'm looking 8 months ahead for the other team. Because I always tell Brad, you're giving me a headache. Because he will sit here, if this happens and that happens, Cowboys would have the division tiebreaker, but Philadelphia would have the better conference record. And I'm like, Brad, we're in week 2. Okay, let's let it play out, and then let's talk about this in week 17.
All right, your secret is safe with us, Babe
Thank you.
Laufenberg, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Babe. Enjoy the game, sir.
All right, thank you both. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. There he goes, Babe Laufenberg, the quarterback of the broadcast, if you will, here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. We'll get to Christy Scales here in just a few minutes, but let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
You're turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
My gosh, Bryce, did you see that Carolina quarterback, Drake May?
Yeah.
Left-handed pass about 12 yards out into the end zone yesterday. He continues to make unreal throws. Caleb Williams, a super beast. I think it's a great question about Kyler Murray and his status with the Cardinals. Yep. Lots can happen between now and then, but I'm kind of guessing. We've seen precedents. We've seen the Eagles say, yeah, we paid you a lot of money, Carson Wentz.
Oh, no.
We like somebody else. Let's
totally,
rock with Jalen
I totally
Hurts.
agree with you. Kyler Murray was not drafted by this current general manager,
right? And
he was not drafted by the current coach.
No sponsors,
and so he's got no sponsors in the building, and they might be in a situation where they definitely look at a quarterback.
All right, we inch closer and closer to a Cowboy kickoff. Let's get the scoop with Cowboy sideline reporter Christy Scales next, right here on the Fan.
Spurs assistant coach.
Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales to give us the scoop. Christy, happy game day to you. What's the status with this offensive line right now?
Wow, still some moving parts here, and we're, 73 minutes from kickoff. Tyron Smith at left tackle, who was added to the injury list yesterday with the knee in practice on Saturday morning, still not sure if he is going to play or not. I'm told that he is going to dress out, but not sure if he is going to play. We already know that Tyler Broaddus, the starting center, and Zach Martin, the starting right guard, are already out. So could be without 3 starters along the offensive line. The good news is that Tyler Smith, after missing the first 2 games with a hamstring injury, will be back at left guard, and of course Terrence Steele at right tackle. But we're waiting to see what is going to go on with Tyron Smith, because right now the offensive linemen are not back out on the field yet. Right now it's just the specialists. It's just the punters, the kickers, and the deep snappers that are out here right now. Tyron Smith, he and Zach are usually the first Cowboy players that come onto the field early warm-ups over 2.5 hours before kickoff. So Tyron went through, his warm-ups and stretching and all that, but the offensive linemen have not come back out on the field. So again, I'm told that Tyron Smith will dress out, but they're not sure if he will play. So Chuma Edoga, who's been playing a guard out there at left tackle, and of course you have the rookie Awesome Richards, who has played at both tackle and guard as well. So moving parts here. We know that Brock Hoffman will start at center and TJ Bass at right guard.
So Christy, what you're hearing is that Tyron could dress but not actually play in the game, right? Is that kind
That's
of
what
what
I'm
we're
told, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, and I know there's been some stuff out on social media that, Tyron Smith is a game captain, so they feel like he's going to play. Well, here's the thing. This year, Mike McCarthy switched. He names the game captains now on Thursdays.
Yes.
In previous years, he would name it on Saturday. Like one of the last team meetings Saturday night, and everybody would cheer, and it's kind of, hey, this weekend here, tomorrow you're game captain. But they're announcing that earlier in the week, now on Thursdays. And so of course the Tyron with his knee, that happened in practice yesterday. I'm told that they think that maybe stepped on one of the teammates' feet, while they were going through some of that. So again, we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with Tyron Smith at left tackle.
So do you have an idea of the other inactives then, Christy, as we get going?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do have those inactives for you. So Zach Martin and Tyler Broaddus are inactive. So is wide receiver Jalen Brooks. That's because the good news is that Brandon Cooks is back after missing last week with an injury. Here's kind of a surprising one. Safety Israel Mukwamu. Because I know that without, there's some speculation, maybe they'll go with some big nickel and have him help out, in the slot. But it's my understanding that what's going to happen with Trayvon Diggs out, of course, now on injured reserve with a knee injury with a torn ACL, Deron Bland will start on the outside in Trayvon's spot. And then Jordan Lewis, who came back last week, had the 10 plays last week, nickel as Deron's backup as the nickel slot. Remember, last week was his first action since that very serious foot injury last October. So while there's not a specific pitch count for Jordan, really about 30 plays is where they want to maybe max out. So what do you do if you have more than 30 plays where you're in your nickel? Well, I would expect that Deron Bland would move from outside to inside, and then you would have Noah Igbenogany who would play on the outside. So remember, when they got Noah in that trade for Kelvin Joseph from the Dolphins just a week before the regular season kicked off, Noah's a guy that plays outside. Kelvin Joseph played inside. That's the reason why the Dolphins, they needed some help in there. So if Noah comes in the game, it means that Bland is sliding inside.
Wow, this is interesting with the Mukwamu stuff. I mean, my
There's
goodness,
a lot
Christy.
going on.
This is
these chess pieces. We're moving them around on the board this game day.
Yeah, well, I mean, and just this whole week,
yeah.
I can't remember a week like this.
Yeah, and I'd love to share something about what you're losing with the offensive line in terms of experience. So Zach Martin, 139 games. I'm just going by regular season, okay? Mm-hmm. So Zach Martin, 139 games and starts. Tyler Broaddus, 47 games and 39 starts. Just those two being inactive, that's 186 games that you're losing in experience. Brock Hoffman has 5 career games, 0 starts. And TJ Bass, he's a rookie, and he's played spot duty and special teams the first 2 weeks. So you go from 186 games to 7. And then if Tyron Smith is not playing, that's an extra 150 regular season games. So Broaddus, Martin, and Smith adds up to 336. If it's Adoga, then he's actually played in 27 games, just 15 starts. But you go from 336 to 34. if in fact Adoga has to play for Tyron Smith. And if Awesome Richards comes in, he's a rookie, and he's played parts of 2 games, mainly special teams, through these first 2 weeks of the season. And one more thing about offensive line. I know that here today, battling crowd noise is always something that you have to deal with on the road. Obviously, tons of Cowboys fans today. If they get a lead today, people listening on Cowboys radio, they're going to think we're at AT&T Stadium and not here in the middle of the desert in Glendale, Arizona. But interestingly, since State Farm Stadium, this stadium opened in 2006, 211 false start penalties for Cardinals opponents. That's more than any other venue in the NFL in that time period. So we think of Seattle, we think of Kansas City as being the noisiest crowds, but actually this is the place where it's toughest for offensive lines, at least to avoid these false start penalties. So these young guys are going to have to be particularly dialed in today.
My goodness, yeah, just the level of difficulty just skyrockets here. I mean, and this has not been a place that has been very kind to the Cowboys over the last 9 or 10 times that they've played these guys.
No, the Cowboys have dropped 6 of the last 7 to Arizona, and this is with some Arizona teams that weren't so great. Hey, I want to mention one thing because I'm looking here. I'm right here in the Cowboys bench area, and just a few feet away from me. I want to mention that Sharif Floyd. This is the Cowboys assistant defensive line coach who passed out and actually ended up spending the night at the hospital after that little scary incident on the sideline at AT&T Stadium last week. He did travel with the team. He worked some from home, but was at the Star a lot this week. He is obviously here in Glendale, and he will be on the sideline during the game. So that's some very, very good news that Coach Floyd is doing well, and he'll be doing his regular role today with the Cowboys.
That's hugely encouraging. Christy, before we let you go, I did want to ask, what do you make of the start of the season to Michael Gallup, and how much of an emphasis do you think they want to have in trying getting him the ball a little bit early and getting him going a little bit?
Yeah, I agree. It's no secret. Mike McCarthy said they want to get him involved early, but the thing is they're not going to force it, right? They don't have to. But, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they hopefully first series, if not very early in the first quarter, get him involved. But the main thing is, if it's not there, Dak knows that he doesn't have to force it to him.
Well, Christy, we always appreciate the information, always a wealth of knowledge, and we'll catch up with you next hour.
Yeah, and if I find out more about Tyron one way or the other, I will break in with the breaking news from Glendale.
Beautiful. You got it.
Thanks, Scoop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cowboy sideline reporter Christy Scales.
She's
bringing all the news, which is good, but today it was not so much in the way of good news.
Nah.
I mean, this offensive line, this is going to
be a factor. It's going to be a factor. It's going to be a factor. And everybody we've talked to, the Dave Pashes, the Babe Laughlin-Bergs, everybody knows that Cowboys from 1 to 53 are a better team. They really, really are. But all of a sudden now you start to take pieces out, and there's some games going on today, with the Ravens. They're losing. How many starters out for the Ravens today? 7?
Yeah, they had a lot.
They're losing the Colts 16-14 right now.
I should have gone with the Colts, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you go with the Ravens, by the way?
No, I'm with the Cowboys.
Oh, that's right.
My confidence with the Cowboys now is.
But see,
thank God for this Cowboys defense.
That's what I'm saying. All you have to do to level the playing field is start taking starters out of a lineup, and then see what happens there. And if Tyron Smith does not play. Now there's some serious reshuffling going on there. That's 3 of your starters outright. That's going to be very preseason-like. Now, fortunately, though, Arizona's missing some starters as well on their defense, yeah.
And fortunately, the Cowboys have a passing attack that is predicated on getting the ball out super, super quick, which has been advantageous to start this season against a blitz-heavy team with the Giants and then a really nice pass rush with the Jets. It was mitigated thanks to Dak Prescott and this offense getting the ball out as quickly as they do. So I do trust this is a coaching staff that I trust much more than previous regimes, I would say, when it comes to making up for whatever deficiencies they might have on their roster when it comes to some injuries and stuff, especially defensively for sure. Probably got a little bit more trust in Dan Quinn. Like it's a little bit head scratching without Izzy McQuamu starting today, or not necessarily starting, but being inactive entirely after the Trayvon Diggs injury and knowing how they're going to have to reshuffle some things. And part of that domino effect, we thought after Jordan Lewis, hey, McQuamu was kind of a guy who played some good nickel, but you trust Dan Quinn. And to a large extent, I do trust McCarthy and this staff to find a way to mitigate whatever deficiencies they're going to have. They're obviously going to have it with no Martin and no Broaddus on the starting offensive line, but is Tyron Smith going to start? Is he going to be limited? Is he going to be in and out? I don't know, but the status of the offensive line is a little bit that, and now I understand why you're a bit queasy today.
To me, it's my experience of working in this league, and I haven't been in there, I haven't been in the league since 2005, a long time ago. But I'm just saying the experience that I had, the things that I always worried about when you went into a game. There's one thing, if your offensive line, if you have your same 5 guys, as long as you had your offensive line, you could work around things.
Yeah, that's the foundation.
That's the one. That's the for the last 2 weeks. That's the one thing that's really. Now the defense has played very well. Don't get me wrong.
And the defense is going to win this game today.
But the Cowboys haven't turned over the ball. Their protection's been really, really good. The quarterback's done a nice job of finding the receivers, and so that's the thing that always just kind of when you start talking about taking those pieces away. Those are the concerns. Dallas is a better team, no question. But start taking away parts of the team, and it's not the same. It's not good. The quarterback will be, the quarterback has really benefited from outstanding protection. These last, I felt like the Jets were really going to come after him, and they did a great job of holding up and gave Dak time to throw the ball. Had a lot of completions in a row. The one thing Arizona can do is they can rush the passer. They can't cover worth a damn, but they can sure rush the passer. All you need is a little slip up here and there, and that ball doesn't get out very much.
Well, and that's going to be even more emphasis when it comes to the quick passing game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be tough to get the rushing attack going. It hasn't been very dominant offensively running the ball already to start this season. And now if you factor in some of these O-line questions, hopefully getting Tyler Smith back. Is Tyler Smith in the run game a giant upgrade than what they've been dealing with to this point, you think?
Yeah.
Tyler Smith in the run game? Okay.
Yeah. I think so. Right. I think so, yeah.
Well, certainly a lot of questions to be answered here. We're getting all sorts of information about Tyron Smith, maybe not actually playing for the Cowboys today. He's apparently going to be suited up. He is a team captain, but he had a little bit of a knee flare-up situation during the walkthrough yesterday, which is hugely unfortunate. It's been a wild week in Cowboy land when it comes to some of these injuries. The Trayvon Diggs stuff, certainly hugely disappointing as well. It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. The Cowboys Special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today, better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, we will hear from Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy in the Coach's Corner. We'll hear from Jerry Jones as well as we continue to inch closer to kickoff. 60 minutes to a Cowboy kickoff, Cowboys and Cardinals. Let's dive into the preview and go inside the numbers next. Coming up right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
It's big.
60 minutes to kick off. Cowboys and Cardinals. Welcome into another Cowboy game day here on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. I'm Eric Chiofalo of the G-Bag Nation on the Cowboys flagship weekdays, and that is a Super Bowl champion, Bryan Broaddus, former Cowboys scout, ready to tell us why this Cowboys defense is going to dominate the day. Not sure about Tyron Smith. We know Zach Martin's out. We know Broaddus is out. We've talked a lot about the offense, but let's go look into the preview brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. How does this Cowboys defense with no Trayvon Diggs Broaddus match up versus this Cardinals offense?
Well, I'll tell you what you're going to get is a lot of movement from this Arizona scheme. And I mean movement with the receivers, play a lot of 11 personnel. That's their primary way of moving the football. That's 3 wide receivers, the 1 tight end. Their best, I believe, offensive package is 12 personnel where they get in 2 tight ends with 1 back. And that's, to me, they have a little bit more of an ability to run the football that way. They're real big on sending movement one way or sending the play one way and having one of those tight ends block back. I worry about this a little bit with Micah Parsons. I know I talked about it during the week leading up to the game that Micah needs to be careful in this game because Trey McBride he's the backup to Zach Ertz. But when the Cardinals run the ball, they like to take a blocker and send him backside to clean up any trash that might be over there, anybody that can run down the play from the backside. Mm-hmm. So Flo going right, Trey McBride running left, Micah Parsons screaming off the open side. When I talk about the open side, that's away from the tight end, away from the strength. He needs to be careful because Trey McBride likes to cut. He's a big, go low.
Oh, he's coming for the knees.
So, yeah, you're in the tackle box. And, so you could go low block in the tackle box, but he does that quite a bit. So Micah needs to be a little bit careful that, okay, just because you're on the backside and you feel like you have a free run, be careful with a guy coming back across at you. That could be something, but that's something that this Arizona Cardinal offense, I call it pin and pull, where down block, bring guys to the outside. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to take you on one-on-one. They shield you from the play, and then they pull a guy to try and get in space. So they get you flowing one way, get a puller out there, and then get him in space to run the ball. James Conner's a tough back.
He is.
Cowboys have dealt with some tough backs the last couple of weeks, and they've been just fine for it.
Rundy's been a beast, and it will hopefully continue once again today, hopefully forcing some turnovers. The offense is going to be a bit shorthanded. And as we go inside the numbers, brought to you by Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's. Wanted to take a look at the CeeDee Lamb nugget. On pace to do something that hasn't happened in over 75 years. Lamb currently accounts for over 55% of the Cowboys' receiving yards, which is easily the highest in the NFL. And the last time one player accounted for over 55% of a team's receiving yards was in 1945. So this passing attack has been basically just CeeDee Lamb. They were without Brandon Cooks in week 2. Michael Gallup hasn't really gotten going, but that's one question I have, and we'll see because it's going to be, it's going to be a makeshift offensive line, and they're just going to try and get out of here alive today, I imagine, offensively.
They are.
But looking to hopefully see if the offense can diversify a little bit in the passing game for as great as CeeDee Lamb has been, and he has been a monster through 2 weeks. Would like to see the passing game get going with some other fellas, and maybe that's a day for Brandon Cooks or Michael Gallup to get going. But all right, let's take a look at the coach's corner. We have Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy standing by with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, live in Arizona. We head out there next to hear from Coach McCarthy. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Cowboys football and
playing with a different kind of mentality. They have through the first 2 weeks of the season. They lose their brother Trayvon Diggs this week. They get the Bart Scott talking smack and putting salt into the wound a little bit. I think the defense is going to play with their hair on fire, and it is going to be potentially an ugly game, maybe a little bit ugly. The Cowboys down some offensive linemen, but this defense is just too good and too fast, and they're going to make their presence felt for 4 quarters, and they're going to take this victory home, and I cannot wait to watch it as we continue to inch closer and closer to kickoff. Let's get out to Arizona right now. Standing by alongside the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, is your Cowboy head coach, Mike McCarthy.
Well, fellas, how's your day? Mike McCarthy's having a heck of a day already, and the game hadn't even started yet. I keep, after Thursday, after Trayvon's injury was revealed, I kept thinking about what you always say about when you won the Super Bowl, it took 77 guys. You may need all 77 today now. This offensive line situation's a little bit of a mess. When did you know that you were going to be missing multiple guys?
Really not till after practice yesterday. So I mean, the guys gave it a shot. They went out there and did the rehab session, and so it's been just a little bit of a busy night and busy morning, just kind of changing things up and getting ready to do what we need to do to go get this win.
This is why you have bench players that you chose. This is why you talk about staying ready all the time. But when you have 3 guys at once plus an all-pro corner, do you say anything to the team about just keep your head down and it's still just a game or anything like that?
Well, definitely. I mean, we feel that's a big part of who we are. We have established a standard of play style. We have a standard of how we prepare for games, and you got to trust that process. And adversity is here, and it doesn't just go away and doesn't come back. That's the reality of a championship season. And but yeah, our guys are built for this. This is a good challenge. I mean, when you have to make these changes later in the week, it's a little bit of a bigger challenge. But I do, talking with Mike Solari yesterday and Bryan last night, and we met again this morning. So we feel like we have a good plan. Dak feels really good about it, so we'll be ready to go. And
it has nothing to do with today, but do either Martin or Broaddus look like long-term injuries?
No, I don't see that. These are long-term issues, no.
Okay. And Tyron?
I think all 3 of them are pretty similar as far as timeline.
Right. Okay, so you mentioned Dak. So I wouldn't ask you if you would call the game differently one way or the other, because I know I wouldn't get an answer. But let me turn to the defense for a minute. If you were coaching against your team and Trayvon Diggs was not in the lineup, would you do different things? Would you attack them differently?
Well, you definitely would test, that side more. I mean, I think that goes without being said. But, it's just like anything, how do you get that matchup and what do you know about the matchup and so forth. And I think that's the beauty of Deron. He's played really well, both inside and outside. But, yeah, definitely, I think it's definitely part of the expectation today.
I was going to ask you before Thursday if you thought the offense might feel a need to maybe get going a little quicker with a little more since Trayvon wasn't there. But that's a stupid question now, because it feels like you're just trying to survive from series to series until you get your feet under you with this particular 5 guys.
Well, I look at it more as exemplifying, the complementary football formula that we have in place. So this is a great opportunity for us as a football team to play, to each other's strengths. And this is a big challenge on a normal day. So I think the Arizona Cardinals have, their video is good. I mean, they obviously they're 0-2, but they, you can see the productivity that they've established. So and it's a veteran team too. So these guys play the right way. They know how to play. So our complementary football formula is definitely going to have to be in effect today.
And last one, you saw this quarterback when he was in Tennessee last year. How does he look compared to how he looked last year?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, he can spin it. He can make all the throws, and I think he'll definitely be better in the pocket this year than he was last year, just because he's clearly 7 days he was in Tennessee before he played. But he's dangerous. He's dangerous out of the pocket, and can make a lot of plays with his feet. So our rush lane discipline needs to be intact, and we need to get after him when they do decide to drop back and throw it.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it, fellas. Back to you.
Thank you, Brad Sham. Now, Broaddus, what about the idea of if Tyron Smith is not going to play, or if he's going to be a little bit hobbled in and out, whatever the case may be, would you be interested in putting Tyler Smith at left tackle?
See, the problem is that Tyler Smith's, all his work has been at left guard, but he hasn't, because of injury, been playing. I mean, this week he probably was playing the guard.
Yeah, he was probably playing guard all week.
But he could, it's a ride a bike situation. He played left tackle for you for the entire season last year. Do you put him out there? And to me, with the way that the Cardinals rush the passer, it's going to come from the edge. So I might be more inclined to put him out there. Put Adoga at left guard, put Bass at right guard, Hoppinger center, and Steele's your right tackle. That's what I might be inclined to do right now.
I think so as well. I think so
I don't
as
know
well.
if I would go. I don't know if I would go with the way that they rush the passer. I don't know if I would go with Awesome Richards with his first start. This could be very much a Chaz Green situation. Remember in
God
Atlanta?
help us. Yeah.
I mean,
I'll never forget.
Where the one thing that they can do is they can rush the passer.
Right.
That's
especially off the edge, like you said.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think I would go with I would feel better if I had both Smith and Steele playing tackles and then try and navigate the middle.
Okay, we'll get you to kick off as quickly as possible. It's the official pregame show of America's team. Let's get to know the enemy, and we'll go into the owner's box with Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. Coming up next, Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Hi, I'm Frank Vollmer.
32 minutes to kick off. Cowboys and Cardinals. We get to know the enemy, brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. And I just think speed is something to know about this Cardinals offense with guys like Hollywood Brown, guys like Rondale Moore, and they got their power with, of course, James Conner at the running back position. But the good news is the Cowboys defense brings all the speed, and they're going to be all over this Cardinals offense for 4 quarters. It is going to be a beautiful thing to watch. But right now we go live to the owner's box in Arizona with Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales standing by with Cowboys owner Jerry Jones.
Well, here in Glendale, Arizona, Jerry Jones has already signed about 2,000 autographs as he makes his way around the perimeter of the field. Looks like Cal Ripken doing high fives with the fans going around.
Quite. And we all understand it's all about the Cowboys, but that's what's special here. We have such great fans here in Arizona, really. We get so many that trek up from El Paso, thousands that come to this game. And when Arizona, Phoenix then, wanted a referendum to vote for a new stadium in Phoenix, they asked me to send out a letter to all the residents of Phoenix because we could play the Cowboys and get to see our fans here. So this place has really got a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans, and it'll be big for us tonight, and we'll need them.
Yeah, the one thing, it often does sound like a Cowboys home game when we play here, and that'll be helpful today because you have some young offensive linemen who are going to be playing, and crowd noise is always an issue when you have young linemen. The one thing we're unsure about is if we're going to see Tyron Smith today because of that knee issue from yesterday. Will we see him, and how much? Unlikely. Wow. So Chuma Edoga then at left tackle probably.
Yes.
And then T.J. Bass at right guard, it's my understanding.
You'll see Richards in there. You see, hopefully we can stop right there with our combinations. Of course, obviously Bass will be out there. So we've got to get that ball out.
Yeah, that's one thing. And then with the run game, I know that's a big thing with Tony Pollard and everything. So what is your confidence level in these young guys?
Well, I know the only way you get better is to do what's fixing to happen to them. That's get a rep in a National Football League game. So we'll see it. We'll sure be concerned about protection. And then we'll have to really make our own gaps if we want to get the running game going. It'll be a challenge today, but let me say this. This will give us a good look at how we've evolved with our offense today.
Yeah. A young guy who stepped in last year when he got his chance. This is on the defensive side of the ball, of course, but Deron Bland played such a role in your secondary last year after injuries, and now he steps in with Trayvon Diggs. What do you want the fans to know about Deron Bland and his readiness to play outside in place of Trayvon?
He's inordinately sound for his experience. I have a lot of confidence. I think he'll be the first thing we normally look for is somebody that will be in the right spot, and Bland does that so well, and then he executes when he gets there. The thing we're missing Diggs is that unique ability to play the ball and intercept, getting the turnover, although Bland got, I think, 6 or 7 last year. So we're glad to have him in there as our depth, and, of course, a great opportunity in his career to come out here and start against Cardinals.
The fans would love to hear an update on Trayvon. Have you had a chance to visit with him, and people are holding signs saying do it for Diggs and wearing their number 7 jerseys? What can you tell us about Trayvon and his spirit?
Yeah, well, our heart goes out to Trayvon. He's got a great career ahead of himself. He worked hard to get where he is. And, yeah, I visited with him right after he got injured. And you can imagine, I think the lowest time in anybody that competes as an athlete, lowest time is how to overcome, build, and get the will to work to get back to the spot you just left. Michael Irvin told me the greatest thing that happened in his career was his almost career-ending injury. Caused him to realize how much he needed football, how much he had to have it to live, and he's renowned as one of the most accomplished rehabilitators that's ever played the game. He just worked beyond anything he ever had, and so he'll tell you the injury made his career.
Great. Jerry, we appreciate the visit. Thanks so much. We're going to let him get back to signing autographs for the fans here at State Farm Stadium as we continue counting down to Cowboys and Cardinals kickoff. Let's rejoin Bryan and Eric.
Today's Owner's Box brought to you by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's, and it's also time to pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves along the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Go low, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Here we go, under 30 minutes to a Cowboy kickoff. Let's go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. Coming up next, you're listening to the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance.
20 minutes to kick. Let's go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, Cowboys and Cardinals. Inside the booth, brought to you by WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. And we welcome in the voice of the Dallas Cowboys. Brad, this offensive line situation, is this a bigger issue, you think, from pass protection or the run game?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Great answer.
All of it.
Thank God it's a quick passing. The quick passing is sort of the foundation for this new offense.
Yeah. There's no doubt. And, it's not like these guys don't know the offense, but and frankly, I would rather have them trying to do this against Arizona than against the Jets or even the Giants. Mm-hmm. But, yes, it has to affect everything. And, I guarantee you McCarthy has been recalculating in his mind how to call the game, because it'll be different than what it would have been if he'd had all his people.
Yeah, Brad, can you? I heard you ask Coach that question, and I knew you're right. You're probably not going to get the right answer. But what do you think he's going to do differently, or how would you see it playing out if as you look at it?
Yeah, Bryan, I didn't even bother to ask him what he would do differently because I knew he wouldn't tell me.
No,
but he did.
Yeah.
But before we started recording, he said, he's been kind of thinking all night about what he's going to do differently. So, there's only so much you can do. This is not an offense, thank goodness, that relies on a lot of 5- and 7-step drops and wants the offensive lineman to hold up in pass protection. And so, they're quick hitters and get the ball out fast and throw a screen. And, it'll be interesting.
What do you think about Deron Bland on the boundary? I was encouraged with what he did there last year.
Yeah, I think that they're not as good, Eric, without Diggs. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear. That's a star player, a superstar player. But I'm confident with Bland, and they've got McQuamu down today, which is interesting because he could have been a guy to back up Lewis in the slot. But I think that they're happy with what Bell and Thomas can do, being versatile. But I think Bland. Bland. Here's what we all forgot. I didn't even know it at the beginning of last year because he did such a great job when Lewis got hurt. But he had never really played the slot until training camp of last year, his rookie year. He'd been an outside corner. So that's nothing that he can't do.
Well, Brad, we appreciate the time. We were hanging out with the voice of the Cardinals earlier in the program, Dave Pash, and he just don't be surprised if he swings by your booth later and tries to figure out
I've seen him.
Okay.
I've already seen him.
Envious. He was envious of the halftime spread. He was trying to figure out how he could pull some strings at the Cardinals Stadium.
Well, I'm afraid you got to be there 40 years plus for that.
In due time for Dave Pash. Thanks for the time, Brad. We appreciate it.
Okay.
There he goes, voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. And now we welcome in the Cowboys sideline reporter, Christy Scales, for her keys to the game. Brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy, this offensive line situation, what are we looking at here? Who's playing left tackle today?
Well, Chuma Edoga took the reps with first team in the warm-ups, and his backup was Awesome Richards, the rookie who's played both guard and tackle. So, and then at center with Tyler Broaddus inactive due to injury, you have Brock Hoffman, and his backup will be Sean Harlow, who spent the previous 2 years out here in Arizona with the Cardinals. He could be a backup guard and center, even though he's an offensive tackle by trade at his time at Oregon State in college. And then you have TJ Bass, a rookie, who's played in the first 2 games pretty extensively, filling in for Zach Martin, including last week when Martin hurt the left ankle. And he'll be making his starting debut. So first start, and just to repeat something we said a little bit earlier, without Broaddus, Zach Martin, and Tyron Smith, that's 336 career regular season games. And with Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass, and Chuma Edoga, you're at 34. So not a lot of experience with the guys stepping in, and then Awesome Richards and Harlow backing up the guys who are normally the backups.
Quite the Cowboy crowd in Arizona today.
Oh my gosh, yes, it is. I'm not exaggerating when I say that it's at least half blue Cowboy jerseys. So it's the background, it's the seats here inside State Farm Stadium are red. So when you wear those white or especially those blue Cowboy jerseys, it really stands out. And yeah, it is a heavy Cowboy presence today.
Well, we appreciate the time as always, Christy. Enjoy the game.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bryan.
There she goes, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales. It is prediction time here on the official pregame show of America's team. Kickoff around the corner, Broaddus. I've adjusted things.
Oh, wait, have you?
I went 33-6 on Friday. Now I'm going to reduce it to 23-6 with the offensive line issues, okay? I'm going to give you that opportunity as well. I know you like to stay consistent.
No, I do. I like to stay consistent. I thought this was going to be a tough game to begin with, as you looked at the tape. So I went Cowboys 28, Cardinals 20 in this football game.
Okay, very good. We know the loss of Trayvon Diggs, but defensively they reinsert Donovan Wilson back onto this defense. He's sort of the heartbeat at times of this defense, the physicality. He's going to be playing with his hair on fire. The defense is as well. It's going to be a fun defensive performance today. That is my prediction for sure. We look forward to halftime with Broaddus, the Super Bowl champion, and Zach Wolchuk, the Wooly Bully, stepping in. They'll handle post-game duties as well. But coming up next, it is kickoff with Brad and Babe. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
It's time to get back in the game.